That morning, she bought a kitchen knife near the Palais-Royal. She chose it. She paid for it. She hid it in her dress. That evening, she knocked on a door. She said she had names. Names of traitors. Names of enemies of the revolution. The man inside trusted her. He let her in. Minutes later, he was dead in his bathtub, pen still in hand, still holding a piece of paper she had given him. She didn't run. She waited to be arrested. She was guillotined 4 days later. And the man who painted what came next was his closest friend. His name was Jacques-Louis David, born in Paris, 1748. His father was killed in a duel when David was 9 years old. After his father's death, much of his upbringing fell to 2 uncles who wanted him to become an architect. He refused. He wanted to paint. As a student, he was injured during a fencing match, a wound to the face that never fully healed. It left a visible deformity, a swelling on his cheek that grew over time. It altered his speech. It altered his appearance. He carried it for the rest of his life. He tried for the Prix de Rome 5 times. 5 times. He failed 4. And on one of those failures, he tried to starve himself to death. He was not a calm man. He was not a patient man. He was a man who needed to believe in something, completely. In 1789, the French Revolution began. David didn't watch from a distance. He stepped inside. He joined the Jacobins, the most radical faction of the revolution. He became close with Robespierre. He became close with Marat. He voted for the execution of King Louis XVI. He organized the great revolutionary festivals, the funerals, the propaganda, the symbols. He was called the Robespierre of the brush. He believed the revolution was justice. He believed it was necessary. He believed it was right. He wasn't an observer painting history. He was inside the machine, helping it turn. Jean-Paul Marat was not a gentleman. He was a journalist, a radical, a voice that called for more executions, more purges, more blood. He published a newspaper called L'Ami du Peuple, the friend of the people. But he had enemies. He suffered from a painful skin disease that forced him to spend hours each day in a medicinal bath. That was where he worked. That was where he wrote. A wooden board across the tub, ink and paper, the names of people to be condemned. On the evening of July 13th, 1793, a woman named Charlotte Corday arrived at his door. She was 24 years old, from Caen, a Girondin sympathizer who opposed the radical Jacobins and believed Marat was destroying France. She had been turned away that morning. She came back at night. She handed him a letter. She said she had names of enemies in Normandy. Marat wrote them down. According to later accounts, Marat replied that they would soon be guillotined. Then Charlotte Corday drove the knife into his chest. He was dead within minutes. She did not move. She sat. She waited. At her trial, she said, "I killed one man to save 100,000. She was executed on July 17th, 1793, 4 days after the murder. The news of Marat's death spread through Paris like fire. The National Convention made a decision immediately. The revolution needed a martyr. They commissioned David, Marat's friend, to paint him. David had visited Marat just 1 day before the assassination. He'd seen him in that bath. He had seen the wooden board, the inkwell, the papers, the candle, the green rug over the side of the tub. He knew what the room looked like. And now he had to turn a murder scene into a sacred image. He had less than 3 months. The painting is small, smaller than most people expect. Oil on canvas, 128 by 165 centimeters. The upper half is almost completely empty, a dark, flat nothingness that presses down on everything below. And below, Marat. His body is draped over the edge of the tub, the way Christ hangs from the cross. His right arm falls toward the floor, limp, the pen still between his fingers. His left hand holds the letter Charlotte Corday gave him to gain entry. The knife is on the floor, not in the wound, on the floor. David made that choice. There is a wooden crate in the foreground. On it, David wrote 4 words. À Marat, David. To Marat, David. The crate looks like a tombstone. There are no spectators, no assassin, no drama, just a man and the moment after. Look at Marat's face. He is not anguished. He is not afraid. He is not in pain. He looks peaceful, almost beautiful. David made him younger than he was. He removed the scars of the skin disease. He smoothed the suffering from the body. This is not what Marat looked like. This is what David needed him to look like. The light falls on him from the upper left, the same way Caravaggio lit his saints. David had studied Caravaggio in Rome. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was painting a secular Pietà, Marat as Christ, the bathtub as the tomb, the wooden crate as the altar. The revolution was stripping France of its religious symbols. It was replacing the iconography of the church with the iconography of reason. But David gave the revolution its own sacred image, in the body of a dead man in a bathtub. And the letter in Marat's hand, the one Corday used to get inside, David kept it there. It reads, Il suffit que je sois bien malheureuse pour avoir droit à votre bienveillance. It is enough that I am miserable to have a right to your kindness. David rewrote history in that letter. The real letter may have said something else entirely. But in the painting, Marat dies helping the poor, not making a list of names to condemn. That is the lie inside the masterpiece. 1 year later, the machine turned on itself. Robespierre was arrested. Robespierre was guillotined. And David, who had voted for the death of a king, who had been Robespierre's closest ally in the arts, was arrested. He was imprisoned twice, 7 months in total. He was lucky to survive. But something happened during those months in prison. His wife, who had divorced him years earlier because she refused to live with a man who voted to execute the king, came back. After his imprisonment, she returned to him. They married again. From his cell, he painted the only landscape of his career, a view through the prison window of the gardens of the Luxembourg. A man who had painted revolution and martyrdom and glory now painted trees. He survived. He was released. He became the official painter of Napoleon. He painted Napoleon crossing the Alps. He painted the coronation. He became the most powerful artist in France again. And then Napoleon fell, and David was exiled. He went to Brussels. He was 67 years old. The King of France offered him amnesty, even offered him a position as court painter. David refused. When a student begged him to sign a petition for his return, he said, "Never speak to me again of things I ought to do to get back." He lived quietly. He painted smaller things, mythology, portraits, calm scenes. He took the death of Marat with him to Brussels. For 10 years, the painting had been hidden by his student Antoine Gros, because owning it was dangerous. Now David kept it with him in exile. After being struck by a carriage near a theatre, his health declined rapidly. He died on December 29, 1825. He was not allowed to be buried in France. He was a regicide, a man who voted to kill a king. France would not take him back, even in death. His body was buried in Brussels. His heart was buried in Paris. The painting he carried into exile eventually passed to his descendants. The painting had become politically dangerous. Few were willing to claim it publicly. It was donated to the city of Brussels. It is there now. The man who made it a masterpiece could not be buried in the country that made him who he was. The painting watched. It still watches. It never stopped. There is one question this painting never answers. Did David know what the revolution actually was? Did he know what Marat really did? From that bathtub, with that pen and those lists? Or did he paint what he needed to believe? The painting tells you Marat died for the people. History tells you something more complicated. And David carried the painting to his exile, never explaining which version he believed. Most people look at paintings. Very few actually see them. If you're one of the few, subscribe to Inside the Artwork, a new painting, every week. Everyone with a story no one told you in school.